Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Lenora Claire. Lenora is a casting director, TV producer, art curator, and victims' rights advocate. Indeed, Vice called her the Erin Brockovich of stalking. I met her when she was working on a documentary about flatulence, which partially explains why she's here. She's produced a show called Golden Girls Gone Wild, which features erotic depictions of the Golden Girls. And Heeb magazine once called her the top 10 up-and-coming Jews in comedy, which is quite an honor. Welcome, Lenora.
Hi, it sounds so impressive when you put it all together. I wish I could hire you to be my hype man. It's great. Just like when I enter the room, you just give all my stuff.
I don't have a lot going for me, but I think I have a good voice.
I remember you to be very interesting, so I'm going to disagree.
So if you weren't working as a casting director, a TV producer, an art curator, or a victims' rights advocate, among some of the other things that you do, what would you be doing with your life?
Probably primate trainer. I have a friendship with a capuchin monkey of 15 years. I'll send you a video. I taught her how to talk. She can go back and forth with me, and I have a really special connection with animals and specifically little monkeys.
You said
a capuchin?
As versus kombucha.
Yeah, very, very different. Yeah, very, very different.
And so you have a full schedule.
I do.
How do you make friends with a monkey, teach the monkey how to talk?
Okay.
And then, have this as a backup?
Right. Sure. Well, with everything, there's a story after a story. 15 years ago, a friend of mine was getting married, and most of my friends are male, and so they wanted to have a bachelor party, and I was the only woman that was invited. And the guys were like, geez, we feel like a creep if we got a stripper. We don't want to do that anyway. We're really not kind of into that stuff. What's better than a stripper? And someone was like, let's get a monkey. And I was like, that's awesome. So I was at the party, and I was the only woman. And I've always loved monkeys, and the monkey, who is also a woman, we really super connected. I don't know if she just was getting the female thing.
Did you say the monkey who's also a woman?
Yeah, we're both with ladies. We just super bonded, and I told her owner, I was like, listen, you're stuck with me. We've made friends. You're not done. So over the years, we've developed a really nice friendship. I call it Mo Monkey, Mo Problems, because she'll come over to my place and she likes to eat Cheetos. And I'm not even kidding. Sometimes I'll be little tiny monkey hand of Cheeto dust left on a black bedding thing. Okay. And I'm like, so, it's been a beautifully evolving relationship. I actually was so inspired by her that I want to do a web series called America's Next Top Monkey, because I've taught her so many things. And she lives in a monkey house, kind of like the Top Model house, where it's 6 monkeys who all live together in bunk beds. I'm not making that up.
Okay.
But just like people, some monkeys just shine a little brighter, So she's just kind of the superstar of all these monkeys. And I have little Farrah Fawcett wigs for her, and I taught her how to wear lipstick. Okay. And I can send you a video, because it sounds like I'm insane. I'm not. Most of the stories that I tell you, I'm going to sound insane, but I always have evidence to back it up. I'm not actually insane. And I can send you the video of her, what I call talking.
Yes, please, because I do exhibits with this, so I already made a note. I'm not sure I spelled that type of monkey right. Now, so first of all, for listeners, we're in Hollywood right now, which explains some of the stories that you might end up hearing, including a monkey house. Where is the monkey house?
Well, the monkey house is actually just out of LA proper.
Okay.
Because there's no zoning. The only private house, this is how deep in monkey world I am. The only private house that had monkey zoning is a Playboy Mansion. And my friend Grace, who is stunning, is the monkey handler at the Playboy Mansion, which after have died now, I think it's the hostess family or somebody, but she still trains and helps the monkeys that live on that house. Otherwise, you can't have it in a private home.
I see.
Which you wouldn't really want to. It's not really.
Yeah, the flinging poop thing and stuff like that.
Honestly,
that's overrated.
I've never had that happen. I mean, granted, Zuni's a civilized, lovely little lady, but I've never witnessed flinging poo.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
So, do you think that the I've never been to the Playboy Mansion. You've been to the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah.
I've of course you have.
I grew up here. And actually, I worked with Olivia, who's the legendary pinup artist who did all the art for Playboy for 30 years. I've modeled for her. And then when Betty Page died, I curated an exhibit with her estate in her honor. And I worked with Olivia, and I got to actually have dinner with Hef. And it was really cool and everything when he was still around, and sort of see all that. But yeah, growing up here, you sort of find yourself at parties there, or you did. It's it's not the same thing anymore.
It's going to become a museum, you think?
No, I think a private family just got it. The hostess heirs or whatever, and I think they're probably just going to enjoy it.
I see. Huh. Well, we should just work through some of these. Let's talk about casting, I think, because that came up early.
Yeah.
I've never met a casting director aside from you.
Yeah.
What is that like? I definitely have seen you post stuff or look for stuff, but tell me what that world is like.
Yeah, I mean, I should specify that I do reality casting. I don't do scripted. Okay. So that's what I do. And I always say, in some ways, it's actually made me a better person in life, because over the 8 years I've been doing it, I've done literally thousands of interviews where a stranger comes in and I sit down, and my father was a psychiatrist, and it's almost like doing a psych intake. Like, I get somebody for an hour and I have to really break them down and figure them out and what makes them tick and push the buttons and everything. And, prior to doing this, whenever I'd see people in the world, they were just sort of dots on the landscape. And now that I've done over 1,000 interviews, I realized, no, everybody has a story. Nobody is as they appear. Mm-hmm. So it's really made me kinder in some ways, because I just sort of see the humanity and the sort of, connective tissue of it all. But my niche, if you will, is the sort of extreme subculture and offbeat people, because I'm good at getting them to open up to me and trust me. So I've done shows like Taboo on Nat Geo. I put some very extreme people on television, if you're familiar with biohackers.
Okay, no. Sure,
they're really fascinating. They're people who, they read a lot of sci-fi. They want the future. They want it now. Like, they're self-made cyborgs. So they and remember, they're not doctors. They're not scientists. They're just people who create this technology, and they put it on open source stuff so people can sort of go back and forth. So, for example, they created this device where you implant it in your own skin, and it reads your blood pressure, your temperature, whatever, and then sends text to your phone. And then, so they had this media blackout, and I was able to get them on the show, and I was really proud of that because I thought they were fascinating. Plus, all kinds of, alternative lifestyles, and I've done Dr. Drew Rehab, and I mean, if anybody's curious, they can look it up on IMDb. Lots of weird stuff.
You're clearly big into this, because when I Googled you to get information, your IMDb page is your first page.
Oh, okay. All right.
That shows up. So what would you cast me in a reality? What kind of reality show would you?
Okay.
What would you need me for, or am I just too boring?
The thing about this, okay, so if I can say this, oftentimes the people that make the most compelling television may not necessarily be the people you want to have at a dinner party. Do you know what I mean? It's a different thing. And I've actually turned people away and been like, kid, you're too young. Your mom will hate me. Go home. I've done that. It's really somebody who is the most dynamic, gregarious, whatever version of their archetype. For me personally, what I enjoy in doing this is I like to give legitimacy, and ideally by finding the best and brightest example of whatever this thing is, give maybe a marginalized, misunderstood person a voice, which is on the best day. It's incredible. It's the best feeling to go, oh my God, people really didn't understand what it was like to live in a polyamorous relationship, right? But I've just shown a really lovely person who you would totally invite to a dinner party, and it's not the super creep that maybe,
It's not Puck, right? He's the first,
I have stories about him, actually. He used to show up at my high school when I was attending, and he was considerably older and just want to hang out, there's kids of LA, just stuff like that. But, the worst thing, if we can be honest about it, is...
Please.
Sometimes you make a stupid person famous. And, that we do that too. I try not to take those shows.
This is why you're saying no to me.
No. I was saying, it's really, I also have to go to bed at night. So I really want to work on projects that I think contribute something to society and don't, cause more garbage just out there. So I probably would take a show that you would be appropriate for, something cool, something that would make sense. But I've done everything.
Yeah. So let's talk about these interviews.
Yeah.
So you said you're sort of probing, breaking people down.
For sure.
So are you purposely difficult at times?
If I have to be, I don't choose to be. I mean, my boss, my mentor, who's amazing. He Drawn a Fear, I'll say his name because anyone in reality knows his name. He casts such things as Jersey Shore. He's a legend, right? Yes. So that's my mentor. I'm so lucky to have started with him, and he's an incredible person. But I was really talented at making people cry in under 3 minutes, which I guess you shouldn't be as proud of as I am. But really what it comes down to is, like I said, it's finding the humanity. It's just really looking at someone and sort of being able to read them. And, whatever, I'm trying to be careful because sometimes we sign NDs and stuff. So I'd be a little careful about the shows. But, I try and, it's going to sound so manipulative, but I don't mean it to be. But I do sometimes become what I need someone to be. Okay. And a lot of things, if they can't see what I look like, I have bright red hair and I don't maybe look the most conservative, right? So it's kind of nice because you get on Skype more often than not because we're casting people all over the country who will look at me and then they kind of project whatever they want. There's something about me which is like, oh, even I'm super square. I've never even smoked a cigarette in my life. People don't know that. But when I was casting Dr. Drew Rehab, because of my hair and, people just thought like, oh, I could tell you used to be a party girl. And I'm like, sure, and then it would, but the reason is I'm really non-judgmental. So even though I maybe wasn't this like wild crack smoking party girl that they thought that I maybe had been, they certainly felt comfortable in telling me their stories. So that was really valuable in that circumstance. Or I do a lot of shows. My father, talking about humor, there's no way I couldn't have grown up funny because my father started off, and you'll never hear about this dual specialty. He was a urologist and then later a psychiatrist. So I said, so my childhood was nuts, right? So he specialized in sex therapy here in LA because there's, a whole lot of need for that.
It's probably the capital of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So lots of weird stories about that and growing up and just sort of having this quirky viewpoint of the world. But I definitely feel that I still have my father. We're up to a DSM-5 now, but I still have my dad's DSM-4 under my bed. And I'll just say I'm very, very good at understanding personality disorders and sometimes how to interact with certain people and know how to know what's going on. Sometimes it's between the lines what people actually say.
And when it comes to this, so you're doing an interview, right? So you're selecting people based upon criteria. Yeah. And having someone who can be a personality, you need this for reality television. Are there times where you think that person's, I don't want to say broken, but their problems are too profound that they wouldn't be a good professional? Yes,
and as a matter, we're very responsible. I worked on a lot of shows where if there's something that's questionable, we even have them do a psych evaluation.
Oh, is that right?
So there's terrible stories even before I started in reality. There was the Jenny Jones murder, that whole thing that went on when somebody came on and said that it was a gay man who had a crush on a straight man who was unable to handle this, and he ended up murdering him.
Oh my goodness!
That happened. Of course, you have no way of predicting that particular thing. There was also Megan Wants a Millionaire. There was a spinoff of one of the VH1 reality shows. This girl Megan got a show, and one of the guys who was vying for her, he had actually murdered his girlfriend, and they found her. They identified her by her breast implant ID while the show was airing, and they had to cut it. So after that, people are I know it got really dark all of a sudden, right? There's podcasts about comedy, but no, I mean, I definitely work on shows that people are responsible. If there is a question about somebody's well-being, that they're not put in that position, and we do our best to be as responsible as you can be.
That makes sense. And so, now, if you were to coach someone who's going through casting, right? What can I do to prepare for an interview with you?
Sure. I mean, honestly, the first thing is never say anything that's not true. Sometimes people say things that they think is what the casting director wants to hear, but ultimately, if you're put on a show, right, and you're portraying something that you're not really, it's just a bad idea for everybody. So just be honest. Either you're right or you're not right, because I cast so many damn things. You'll be right for something else later, and I'll remember you. So just be honest. And that also goes to people who are worried about those. Well, but editing and this and that. Well, it's like, well, don't do the dumb thing. Don't say the dumb thing to begin with, and no one's going to use it. Just be kind of self-aware of your actions. Definitely people who just are charismatic. It's always a good thing. Even if it's funny, notes I've had, even if it's something where you wouldn't think a person had to be charismatic. On TV, if you're just sort of low energy, it reads that way and no one wants to watch that. So just whatever it is you're talking about, be excited.
Turn the volume.
Yeah. It's you on, a Red Bull.
Right.
So
I was going to make a joke about having a cup of coffee before.
Yeah, it does help. That's not even a joke. That's good advice. Yeah.
As you sip your Starbucks right here. Yeah, it's a totally fascinating world. How do you record keep? Like you have like
Google Docs. Google Docs for days, yeah.
And
my mind.
You take lots of notes.
I do, but you know what's weird is I have this like almost encyclopedic mind. Not I'm really overselling it here, but I mean like when it comes to personalities, like if somebody is just incredible, I just bank it in my mind. Like I have, if someone did a show about circus performers, I know so many that over the years that I was like, oh, these are wonderful people. I kind of have a Rolodex in my mind.
Okay.
I'm really good still at remembering that. But on the flip side, the one thing that does happen, and when I was single, I'd see people out on the street, and I wouldn't know guys if I auditioned them, saw them on Tinder. I didn't know, and I would just be like, "Oh God!" And it was really like, and I would just awkwardly smile and walk away. Right. But if someone's like an extraordinary person, like I said, even if you're not right with the thing you come in, I do remember you, because there's just people that have that like star thing, that quality, that je ne sais quoi, that thing. So you just kind of remember those people and.
That makes good sense.
Come back later.
That's funny. So speaking of dark, we should definitely talk about this.
Sure.
So I met you several years ago before all this.
Before it was public. Yes, it was happening, but it wasn't public.
But it wasn't public.
Correct.
So you were being stalked.
Yeah, I mean it's still ongoing. I'll just tell the story.
Sure, please.
So back in 2011, I had opened up an art gallery, and I was named one of the LA Weekly People of the Year, which is a lovely honor.
It's
the town I'm from, and I had no idea that there was a schizophrenic man. I want to say, first of all, I need to say this: I do not stigmatize anybody with mental illness. Like I said, my father was a psychiatrist. I just bring this up because it's relevant to my story. And I also don't think that all schizophrenic people or mentally are a danger. It's just my stalker is a danger. So I just have to preface everything by saying that. So there was a schizophrenic man named Justin Massler who legally had his name changed to Cloud Star Chaser. So when I say that is his name.
Right.
So he had been stalking Ivanka Trump out in New York. And, I'm living my life in LA. And this is also the 2011 Trumps, very different Trumps, right?
Different world, yes.
Different world. So he'd been stalking her out there, arrested multiple times, tried to kill himself in her store. He had hopped and jumped bail and come to Los Angeles, opened up a magazine, saw me and was like, I like this one. So he shows up to my art gallery in a spacesuit.
Okay.
And I thought he was funny because I have a high tolerance for art shenanigans.
Sure.
So, whatever I did, I engaged with him, I talked to him, and things are fine. And then he sort of looks at me and he goes, you remind me of Jessica Rabbit. And I was like, okay, I hear that sometimes. Thank you. And then he's like, and you remind me of like Lulu from The Fifth Element, and you're a supreme being, and I'm going to stop you. And I was like, what? Like, it just happened so quick, right?
Okay.
So
he told you that
he told me that to my face.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I just thought it was really bizarre, and I kind of kicked him out of the gallery. I didn't think anything of it. And a couple of days later, my friends are telling me that it's been like on blogs and news and stuff that he had been extradited, I think by bounty hunters. I'm not sure, but I think that's what happened by the Trumps, and stood trial and went to Rikers, where he started sending me handwritten notes to my gallery.
Okay.
And the first year they were just really bizarre. They weren't threatening at that point. It was more sad than anything. And they started escalating to rape and death threats. And then I started to get really concerned, and I called the police, and they said, well, you don't even know where he is. And I started to learn that while I would have been granted a restraining order, it's the serving that's difficult. So people don't understand, if they haven't gone through this, that, all you have to do is evade a process server. Maybe you don't answer your door. Or in this case, if you're someone who jumps addresses and you don't have an address, how do you even serve a person?
I see. So he can claim, I didn't know.
Well, right, because he hadn't been served.
Yes.
Right, exactly. So, and we'll get into that because I'm also working on a lot of reform. But so I wasn't able to serve him. And then my boss, he had sent my boss a death threat, a very explicit death threat. And all my coworkers, had Googled him and saw he tried to kill himself in Ivanka's store, history of workplace violence. This is not going well.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go to the police here in LA, and I come in with a stack. By this point, it's just so much evidence of death and rape threats. He had a website about killing and raping me. Like, this is all out there. Plus a history of committing this offense. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a slam dunk. And LAPD Northeast Division said to me, well, why don't you just dye your hair so you'll be so noticeable and go off the internet?
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, really? Because I work in TV, and this is bullshit. So I called my friend Bill Jensen, who cut to now. He actually finished the Michelle McNarma book about the Golden State Killer. I'm so proud of him, but this is my old friend, so weird things all align. So he got me on a show called Crime Watch Daily, which is a CW crime show. And I went on telling my story, which teamed me up with this amazing woman, Rhonda Saunders, she was the ADA who, after Rebecca Schaefer was murdered in 89, she wrote not only the first laws in California, but the entire country against stalking. So she's incredible. So I teamed up with her. And I was like, you know what, Rhonda? I have some ideas.
What year were these laws?
They were all put into effect, I believe, in 1991. And here's the kicker, barely updated since. And we think about what a different world we live in, right?
Yes.
So the first thing I sort of presented to her was, what if we had the ability to serve a restraining order via email? Mm-hmm. Because, you can work with people. There's different ways to verify that you've, in fact, read an email. And plus there's legal precedent. There's a foreclosure notice you can get over email. And so if we have precedent, like, why can't we do this? So she's like, okay, very interesting. And then I said, what about a federal stalking registry? Because as we'll go in deeper into my story, the states don't work together. You could have 40 restraining orders against you, and nobody is red flagging you as problematic. No one's going like, oh, no one knows, right?
I just want to go on record. There are zero restraining orders on me. But.
Right. And then, of course, there's all the things with, like, doxing and everything. So I'm sort of, my head spinning on, this is all terrible. So,
yes.
So then no one's helping me. I'm getting these death and rape threats. My life's just gone to hell. I'm good friends with...
are you... So at this point in time, are you... Yeah. I assume you move,
no,
how are you?
Who could afford to move it? It's like everything, everything is, there's a lot of things you don't realize. If I read already, it's causing me problems at my job. At that point, I didn't date for years. How do you sit down and go, by the way, first dates are awkward. I have a stalker that wants to kill me every day of my life. I literally would wake up every morning because I have tens of thousands of emails from him. I know because I'm doing discovery in the case right now. And I would wake up, part of my routine was to check the IP so I knew vaguely where he was, because he's bounced around the country, wealthy parents who just threw money at him. So I would have to go, he's in a different state. I can breathe today. When I was in California, high alert, right? So this is my life for years. Mm-hmm. On top of all the other bad things going on in life, this is just something I just had to live with. So then it got really, really bad. And I'm friends with Polly Perrette, who just left NCIS. She's a wonderful lady. And we've known each other for a long time. And she also has a stalking situation. So we started kind of working together. And she introduced me to Congressman Schiff, who's an amazing person. And oddly enough, this is just my local congressman at this point. He's not House Intelligence Committee Congressman Schiff. So we sat down with him. And I was just so impressed with him. He's just such a brilliant mind, so quick. And even here in LA, there's a rape testing kit facility in Glendale that only exists because he wrote a grant. He's just a wonderful person. And I just sort of told him everything and all these ideas because he's a former prosecutor. So even he's someone who understands the law, he just still didn't understand the specifics of how poorly these crimes are handled. Okay. So I told him my ideas and he was really into it. And he took a bunch of them to Department of Justice, which is great, except what ended up happening was that this may not be the administration that cares so much about crimes that largely happen to women, even though the irony is that I share a stalker with his daughter, but we'll get into that. So I started filming what was now a 2-hour special for 48 hours where they did my story. And while they were filming it, LAPD was telling me, we can't. So my stalker eventually got served with a restraining order and he violated it immediately. So that's the other thing. But restraining orders don't necessarily work. It's not like police go in die hard with helicopters to go serve your person, right? Yeah,
right. The type of person who stalks is not the type of person who goes, I guess I should stop.
Correct.
And have a restraining order.
Correct. Because I want to differentiate the difference between maybe a bad breakup where someone acts like a creep and calls you too much for a couple of weeks and then goes away to actual stalking. Mm-hmm. These are different things. So there's you have to not be well if you're going to if you're truly stalking someone, right? So he doesn't, and also my stalker says that he talks like the Joker. He says stuff like, no jail can hold me. And we'll get to that in a minute because he actually is right. So we start filming the 48 hours. LAPD is saying, we can't find him. And I'm like, really? Because he's sending me videos that I've sent to you at the Santa Monica Youth Hostel. You're just not picking him up. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting really annoyed. So 48 hours has a young intern who sees that he has his phone number on the website where he talks about killing me and just calls it and it gets him on FaceTime. So anyone who doubted my story, because some people did, they're just you're making it up. Oh, no. You can watch the 48 hours. You can see my stalker being interviewed on FaceTime, losing his mind, making threats to me. So now the sort of shift where America's we believe you.
Yeah, okay. Right. It's amazing how much video
Yes, it changed everything.
Yes.
So then 48 hours, they realized, wow, this is real, because there's a Chris Mahandi, who's a sort of leading forensic psychologist. They had him on the show, and he's like, oh, she's right. He's a danger. So it's really validated what I've been saying. So they got him picked up in Utah. He was put in a mental facility. And I was like, whoo, finally, I'm not getting rape and death threats every day. What a wonderful world. And it wasn't until about a week later, which was a week after the election, I'm walking my dog and I get a call from LAPD and Secret Service. What? Why are they calling me? Turns out my stalker had escaped the mental institution.
Okay.
And because it was a different state, nobody thought to notify me until a week later. I could have been murdered. No one told me.
And so the Secret Service are involved now because
now Trump is the president.
So
I don't know what your audience listenership, how they feel, but I will say what I said out loud was, woohoo, I may be the one person to benefit from this Trump presidency. I won the stalking lottery. I share my stalker with his daughter. Like, they're going to go get him. So I went on my Facebook and I was like, as much as he's after me, the Trumps are now, president. Sure enough, he was caught a block away from Trump Tower. He's not even supposed to be in New York, in probation terms. So then he goes to jail. I'm thinking, great, he's going to be in there. Woohoo. It felt like 6 weeks when he was out and sending me death threats. And by this point, I have a boyfriend, sending him he's a lawyer, sending stuff to his office. And so then I'm just like, I'm really under high stress because he's now in LA. He's telling me he's looking for me. He went to my friend's salon and left notes. And he's like, this is real. People are like, oh, it's cyber. I'm like, it's not. He just couldn't find me. Now he's going to places where my friends work looking for me. Like, this is really terrifying.
Yeah,
like,
this
imagine,
is really upsetting. Really
upsetting, right? So what ended up happening, and because this is quite comedic, actually. So he sends me an email and he said, I'm going to come and kidnap you we have a Comic-Con here in LA, Kamikaze, and my friends own it. He didn't know that, but he said, I'm going to come and kidnap you. And so I hit up my friends who own it and I was like, he's going to be there. So they set up a sting. Sure enough, he shows up. They have security hold him down. Okay. Along with what I've heard were like a bunch of cosplay dudes, a lot of Batman, Supermans helping out, holding him down.
Letting them really experience their true
heroes.
fantasy.
Real heroes.
Right.
So then he's taken by LAPD and put into holding, where he's then served with restraining orders. Anyone can look this up, by the Kardashians, who I actually had some involvement with their security team, who were really nice, because I knew he was stalking them. And out of nowhere, Gwyneth Paltrow slaps him with a restraining order because he tried to get her kids from school, and I did not know that. So she's in the mix. So now he's currently, we were supposed to have, I think January 8th was supposed to be the original trial, but then they said he was mentally unfit. Surprise, surprise. Okay. So now I'm just waiting until, we can go ahead and do this thing. I have to do my own discovery. So many pieces of information. It's very intense. The thing people don't realize is that there's not a lot of time given for these crimes. I mean, it took me 6 years for me to even get what happened to me elevated to a felony. It was considered misdemeanor for the longest time.
Is that right? Are
you kidding me? Yeah. Because that's the thing. When people don't, and I would say, because I've made a lot of friends. Like, as you mentioned, Vice calls me there and brought me to stalking. Mm-hmm. I've helped a lot of people get restraining orders, and I give advice. And again, I'm not a lawyer, my boyfriend is, but I just do my best with my experience and listening to people and just sort of helping them as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And I have a friend who, her stalker didn't get jail time for threatening to shoot her kid in the head. He got it because he threw red paint on her car, and that was felony vandalism. And that tells us that property value is more valuable than human life. Right. So we really have to evaluate how we treat these crimes. Also in California, there's a proposition, I forget the number, that passed a couple of years ago, that was very misleading. And it sort of said to people like, oh, let's get people who are nonviolent offenders reduced sentencing, which sounds great. You only get the potheads out. Who cares, right?
Yeah, right.
What they don't explain to you is that there's a lot of crimes which are considered nonviolent offenses, which are in fact violent.
Because they're not. There hasn't been violence or threat of violence.
But they even say, most stalking isn't considered violent. There's a lot of sexual assault ones that don't fall under violent. Yeah. So people who, remember, they plea bargain down, they don't get enough anyway, and now they're getting reduced sentencing. So I was told that for everything that I've been through, I'm lucky if he actually serves 2 years. So I'll have to just do this all over again.
Oh, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a up-and-coming Jew in comedy, according to Heat magazine.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago, but yes.
Do you find that you've used your sense of humor to cope with this?
Oh God, yeah.
So like how?
I mean, you hear me making jokes about the whole thing. That's like the only way I can do it. And even it's such a bizarre feeling when you're called up, because every time you get a restraining order, you get called up and they're like, Claire versus Star Chaser. And then everyone in the courtroom looks at me like I'm batshit. And then I have to stand up and go, Well, it started when he was wearing a spacesuit and he stalks Ivanka, and then everyone looks at me like I'm crazy, and I just look, I know. Like, there's no way to not have a sense of humor, even though I am legitimately afraid for my life.
Sure.
And worse yet, he threatens to kill me with Zyklon B and create these mass incidents. So I'm worried about other people, right?
Okay.
That's a terrifying feeling. So while I, have this sort of like humor about it, don't think I'm not terrified, but yeah, listen, I mean, I don't know culturally, my father would always say that was like a Jew thing. It's like you go through like enough genocide, like there's a reason there's so many Jewish comedians. It's like you sort of get through it with humor.
Yeah, I think that I actually don't think that these things have to be mutually exclusive, right? So, I mean, the fact is that it's a sign of health to be able to transform fear, into comedy or anger into comedy. Mm-hmm. I had a previous podcast interview with a former Army pilot, and he talked at length about in war in Afghanistan and these places how. Now, I think a lot of people who are seeing it from the outside don't understand how that can be, right? How that you can both be laughing and terrified at the same time. But to me, as someone who studies mixed emotion, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you it's helpful too because I've done so much media about this. I think if I just went in and hammered people with facts and sadness, that it would be different. But I come in and I'm like, let me put on a show while I tell you this thing. And then it's like, I think it's easier for people to sort of alleviate some of the, the heaviness.
Certainly. Well, and also you're probably, I mean, as I think about it, you're doing PR. You're doing publicity, right? So you're trying to
get people to think about a cause.
Exactly, and try to move, and you want journalists to cover it, and you want people to be moved by it, and you want politicians to put in laws and so on. Yeah. And so being attention-getting, 100%. Being provocative is a good strategy.
Yeah.
And you have that in space. I mean, you're described as like a media personality.
Sure. Right? Yeah. So. Which I was before all this. That's the other thing I always want to talk about too, is that I feel like I'd really be a jerk if I didn't do this, because usually I'm atypical with this crime, right? Like I'm a non-celebrity that has a celebrity type stalker, right? So usually, and I want to be really clear about it, it's usually relationships gone wrong with a lot of domestic violence overlap, and those people can't come forward the way that I can. When you have a child, with the person who's abusing you and doing all this stuff, it's a luxury that I have that they don't have.
Right.
I'm media trained. I have the fact that I was able to call Bill Jensen and be like, put me on TV, I'm mad. Like most people don't have that,
Right.
So I really want to use the fact that I have a platform and I know how to work this. Not like, what was it? New York Daily News. One of the New York papers, like they made the headline something like, "She wants to have her nails done with Ivanka." Because I said something stupid about how I'd like to sit down and be right. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. Because if it's clickbait, if that's, like I said, I do an interview with Cat Fancy. I don't care. Like if I can get somebody to like listen, but you know what I mean? Like listen. Like we need to talk about this. So yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think that's right. So is there something? So I don't know anything about this world, obviously, or not obviously, but I don't know much about this world. So there's an interaction between, right, the victim and the stalker, in some way, right? Like some connection there, at least, even if the stalker just picked you out of a magazine, they make contact in some way. So is there anything that's constant or typical across stalking incidents? I mean, obviously, it's mostly men?
Yeah.
Mostly men doing the stalking.
It's 7.5 million Americans is the current stat of what we know. So it's much more common than people realize. It's a very silent epidemic, right?
Okay.
It happens to, everybody.
Okay.
I would say that I'm uncomfortable giving a number because I don't know the number. But what I've witnessed, it's overwhelmingly men. Doesn't mean that women don't do it. It's just overwhelming.
Sure. I'm not surprised.
And there's different reasons, there's some who have what's called erotomania, which is where they have a false relationship with their victim, which is what my situation is. Sometimes he thinks I'm his wife or his girlfriend.
Okay.
And that's not true at all. Other times it's, like very intense narcissistic personality disorder. They've been spurned and they can't get over it and they've got to obtain and own it, like control, and like there's that. Or my stalker, for example, is also schizophrenic. So, something as simple as me posting a photo on my Instagram out at a party. he'll send me a message that says, you know, you have magic powers and you're not using your magic powers. You're just dicking around at a party and I need to kidnap you to harness your powers to go fight ISIS. Like, what do you,
I see.
Right. So you're just like, I eat nothing. What? So there's a lot of, it's a very complex thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, the majority, it really is relationships gone wrong. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's talk about art.
Let's do that. We can do that too. Sure. I know.
So you grew up in LA.
Yeah.
And when did you get involved in art?
I mean, always. Art's supposed to make you think and feel, you know, and I was always like the weird art kid at school. Like, go figure.
Were you in the theater? Were you in theater?
I was. It's so embarrassing now. Like, I was in show choir with the bow tie and the whole thing, and like, just really, I was really that kid. And I was also super goth. Like, I took a wedding dress, I dyed it black, I buried it for 6 months, and then wore it to school.
Okay.
Right. I was a whole lot of
well played.
Kid. And then I started curating art shows at about 21 years old, and it just was so much fun for me. And I would say that I had my first big hit with Golden Girls Gone Wild. Like 2,000 people came. I was on TMZ and NPR. Even my boyfriend, who's like not impressed by anything, was like, "You were on Wait, Don't Tell Me." That was all the things I've done in my life. Like, for whatever reason, that was very impressive to him.
That NPR crowd is there. Yeah, I understand.
Literally nothing impresses him. He's an entertainment lawyer, so he's seen it all. Like, nothing, but for whatever reason, I thought that was very cool.
I have that too. Like, you know, the humor stuff gets a lot of media play. But the only 3 things that get me email from friends or acquaintances or whatever was Joe Rogan, Mark Maron, and NPR.
Oh.
Those are the 3 that people go, "Hey, heard you're on NPR." So that group cares.
Yeah, they do. Okay, so, yeah.
So you did your first. You curated first time
at 21. Yeah.
I want to ask about curating.
Sure.
Because it's related to some research that I've been working on. What's the fundamental rule, lesson, tip, trick, idea behind curation? Like, what's your secret to curating?
Well, first you got to understand artists, because they're a complex bunch. You know, they'll show up, and so my whole thing is the reason why I enjoyed curating to start with is I met so many artists who were so talented, but I called it brilliant in their bedroom because they were so gifted, but had like no salesmanship, had no idea how to do any of that. And I was like, wow, you're doing genius work that nobody sees.
Right.
Okay. And I'm like, I've got a big mouth. Let's so for me, again, it's promoting people who I find talented who don't have a voice. It's like all these things thematically, whatever thing I'm doing, it all kind of makes sense when you really step back and look at it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so for me, what I would do is because I'm good at coming up with like funny names or quippy titles or whatever, because I was also an entertainment journalist. I was doing that. That was like my day job when I was doing all this. And so, like Golden Girls Gone Wild, the reason why that started was I had interviewed Julie Newmar, who was, we've become friends since, but she's turning 75 and she was still very like beautiful. And like, I would tell people this and they would go 75. Like, they would sound like she'd be like just a decrepit monkey carcass. And I'm like, no, she's stunning. She really is. She looks amazing. And then I started, just as luck would have it, I read this article about senior sexuality and how there was this huge incidence of, seniors in nursing homes getting STDs.
I heard about this.
Yeah, because they think about it. They come from a generation that maybe didn't use condoms, they're not getting pregnant, and they've lost their partner or spouse, probably, right? And so they're just like, why not? So then I was going, wow, they really are doing it. And then I started thinking, this is amazing. So I was thinking, senior sexuality, well, I want to do something with this, but I don't know what. And as luck would have it, I went on eBay to buy Golden Girls DVDs, and I saw this sale of a nude oil portrait of B. Arthur. And I went, oh my God, I have to buy this. So I won it. And I put it over my bed.
What does that cost?
I thought $100.
Okay.
Best $100 in my life. So I put it over my bed, and when people would come over, they would look at it and freak out. And the guy that I was dating at the time, he like couldn't.
It intimidated him.
He could, yeah. And I remember saying to him, I was like, if you can't get down with me, you can't get down with me. Get out. And I was like, why is it so freaky? Like, people were like genuinely disturbed by it. I was going, wait a second, senior sexuality is a very interesting topic. So then I thought Golden Girls Gone Wild. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get 40 artists I know to do things on the theme. And can I say something kind of dirty? I don't know if I can.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So
like,
I have an E explicit rating.
Oh, okay, great. So like, you know, one of the pieces was like the Golden Shower Girls. Like you could do that if you want. Like, or a beautiful classy piece, whatever. But like, I just on the theme and it was it was everywhere. So I just realized like if I create the nonsense and I get these talented artists to contribute, then it works out for everybody. I sold every piece opening night, you know, so it just benefits everyone. And I also like creating community. You know, people came dressed up as the Golden Girls. I had this, a week into the show, this woman, it's like her 80th birthday. She brought a bottle of the box wine and all of her friends. And that was like her birthday party was to come. I was like, okay, great. Like, and then I have a story when I did it in Miami, which was amazing at the museum that was called the Sex Museum sorry, this is like 10 years ago now.
Problem.
The museum, the Miami, the World Erotic Museum in Miami. That's what it's called.
I've been to the Sex Museum in Amsterdam.
Okay.
There's a few of these.
Right. There's one in New York too, but this is the World Erotic Museum, right?
Okay.
So I did the show there, and there were a bunch of senior swingers who left the senior swinger colony, I don't know, to come and meet me. And I was like, this is the closest I'll be to being a Beatle, where people come off the plane to come meet me. This is amazing. So, you know, again, it validates somebody's lifestyle and makes people understand and appreciate, and this is all fun for me. So.
Is there an exhibit? Like, where can I
I've sold pieces. Sorry,
Nope.
I keep doing it. I keep selling.
No, but can I, is there something online I can put in the exhibits for the Golden Girls?
I mean, you know what? My friend does the Dirty Show out in Detroit. My friend Jerry Vile, and he asked me to do it. I was like, all right, 10 years later, sure. Like, I might end up doing it again. So if anyone has a weird idea or wants to get in on this, just find me on my website. Probably will bring it back at some point. I'm throwing parties again next month. I'm doing a party called Sad and Bougie, which is like golf meets hip hop brunch.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to get communities that maybe don't hang out together, everyone hanging out. Like, yeah, it just seemed fun for me.
Wow. So, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say here. So I always ask people what they're watching, reading, listening to that really stands out as impressive, as great, as like, wow. It's a wow from you, not a just normal, oh, that was good.
Okay, let me think. Because the honest answer, it's not what you want to hear. I've been watching a lot of true crime, just like everybody else. Besides the fact that I'm living it and I have my own project.
There's nothing I necessarily want to hear. I just, so true crimes?
I watch a lot of true crime stuff right now because I'm sort of breaking down the genre. I have my own deal for a show.
Okay.
With the people. It's this. So
you're doing research?
Yeah. So I'm really obsessively watching true crime. And
so what, if someone has, I've never seen it. What's special about true crime? Like
the genre? The special.
Oh, you're saying the genre?
The genre of true crime, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So what would be an example of something of true crime that's being done well?
Honestly, I really like the new Marcia Clark, the one that she does, because obviously you have her expertise. Mm-hmm. I love that because you just think about her, whether you want to or not. It was really funny, actually. I was a guest on Dr. Oz like a month ago. It's going to air in July. And they flew me out to New York. And I was tired, whatever. I get there, and as I'm walking on the set, sure enough, they just interviewed Marcia Clark. She's exiting as I'm entering. I didn't get to talk to her. I passed her in the hallway. And I was like, oh my God, I want to talk to you so bad. But then I had to literally walk and sit into my chair. So I missed my moment with her. But, you see her, and we all know her.
Yes,
we all know, right? We all know because because it was the first time, and everybody, whether you watched that case originally or you saw the 30 by 30 documentary, which is incredible, which really shows you all this new stuff, or you saw I really thought the OJ special that they just had was
People versus OJ one.
Oh, well, there's that too, but there was the one that they just had where he completely admitted it.
It's crazy.
It's the most shocking thing I've ever seen in American television, So we're all so aware of this, right? And then, her role, and people don't realize that certain things are not admissible in court, which is like outrageous, right? Like they weren't able to use these things. And so it really makes you understand the failures of the justice system, the way that people play them, the way the politics of it all. So it's just kind of fascinating. And so her show, this history, and then she comes in and she basically talks about where other cases, the boo-boos they made.
Oh, really?
But her unique perspective. And I was like, I just get like yeah, girl. Like, it's like, I guess my equivalent of watching sports. Okay. She'll say something cause she's really confrontational, but like in a way you like her.
Okay.
It's not like in like she's really got this great, she's, she's an authority, But you're like, damn, girl, tell him, because it's what you want to say. You want to say, like, no, that's not true. So it's, for me, I get like, yes, it's like watching sports for me.
And she does cases where there was a not guilty.
The
probably should have been a guilty. That's her thing.
The cases for the most part have been adjudicated. There was one that hasn't, but like, because remember, business and legal is always involved with every single network, and so they're not going to like air something that so they're very responsible. I've had to deal with this too. I had to deal with Viceland last year for my own show. Now that's a long story. I have another deal now. But politics, crime, the intersection, and media is just endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's something about her specifically, also because she's a woman, and I enjoy it. I don't know that anyone else is going to enjoy it as much as maybe they do. I don't know, but you're just asking me what I like. Also, because I've been on so many of these crime shows, and no disrespect for the people who've had me on, but a lot of them are shot in this really dated 90s, shadowy, like, there's nothing worse when you've been victimized than you have to see a recreation of yourself and someone in a bad Halloween wig version of you. And I'm like, why do we do this to people? So I like that hers is like, it's brightly lit and it feels modern and crisp, and it's like, it's just really enjoyable. But as far as brilliant, I love Errol Morris. I love his documentaries. I think everyone should watch Tabloid. I really enjoy that one. Okay. I watch a lot of documentary and docuseries.
What about music?
Oh God, I love so much music. I'm such a
what is it you're obsessively listening to right now?
Everything. Well, okay, so my boyfriend's a really interesting guy. He's an entertainment lawyer in the daytime and a DJ at night.
Okay.
I don't know where he finds the energy. And so he's very into Italo disco, which is a genre I didn't even really know much about.
I don't even know how to spell that.
It's like Italian, like it's Italian, Italia, Italia disco. Okay. It's really campy, but it's like great dance music. But it's like really, it's cool and it's weird. I prefer stuff that's like a bit darker myself. But I love that I'm still,
You were a goth.
I'm just still I'm just an adult goth. I can't pretend it's any different.
Anytime I've ever seen you, you're in black.
It's true. Well, I also have bright red hair, so if I wear any color, I just look like a clown. So
is that true? White? You can't wear white.
My hair will stain it. Like if it rains, I turn into Carrie at the Prom. My hair will still bleed.
I see.
It's really dramatic. Yeah.
All right. So last question. Mm-hmm. Secret to success. Everybody knows. Can't seem to do.
I think the secret to success is just being authentic. I think it's such a rare quality. And I think that's why people always go, how do you talk people into being in your art show or doing this thing or getting a congressman to listen to you? And I'm like, it's because I'm so authentic and I throw myself completely into it. Mm-hmm. And I think people respond to that because I think there's people who think that they have to project this like air of confidence or bravado or something, and it's kind of gross. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you need to do that. I think you just need to think that it's like the thing that you so passionately believe in. Mm-hmm. And if you speak about it with conviction, I think others will come with you.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I mean, that certainly fits for you because I think people will they'll see your picture associated with this, but you have like an intimidating look.
Until I speak, and then you're like, this girl is ridiculous. Like, you can't be,
Exactly. Yeah, right. So, so I think, like, if people hear this, they get a different picture, and so that authenticity probably is especially important, in a world where you're different.
Yeah, but I think it's just a good role. It's like if you think about the most like just dynamic people or just leadership in general, mm-hmm. It's the people that you're just like, that's,
Yeah. You're actually, so it's interesting you say authenticity because your advice to wannabe reality stars is tell the truth. Yeah. Be yourself. Like that's the dominant strategy because you're not going to be able to maintain this other person that you're claiming to be.
Yeah, and the thing that I've also learned from doing all these interviews are people are infinitely interesting and weird and funny and cool in ways that they don't even know. It's like everybody's aspiring to be this other thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll use my boyfriend as an example. He's the most unintentionally funny person I've ever known in my life.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, he's super smart and everything, but he's Midwestern and he's really wholesome, right? Okay. And for a 40-year-old entertainment lawyer who's been in the business like forever, he's seen it all, but he's not touched by any of that. He does roller derby. he's super into his roller derby, has the outfit and everything. And he's like super, and he's so enthusiastic about telling anyone who will listen about his roller derby, you know? And it's like, it's so funny and charming because you like, if you looked at him, you might see like lawyer man guy. But
yeah, sure.
It's like, no, he's just a weirdo who does roller derby, and he has all these other like collects G.I. Joe. Like he has these weird things that is like, but it's so sweet and funny. But like he never thinks to tell anybody about these things about him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I always have them go, no, tell them this thing, and then they start cracking up, and I'm like, no, tell them that thing, and they're like, he's like way more interesting than people who just go, I'm a lawyer, or whatever. Like it does, you know, it's like no.
Right.
You tell them why you have a bruise all over. It's from your roller derby, and how the guy like you know gave you a wedgie, and like go tell them this. Like this happened. So people just they don't. I think it's very difficult for people to step outside of themselves and look at what's really going on and what finds them charming and interesting and cool. And so instead, they're in the pursuit of something else that they think is charming, interesting, and cool.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, it's interesting because, so first, I do believe that, like, if you can talk to someone long enough, you can eventually find something about them that, you know, maybe a little buried, but is interesting about them.
For sure.
And then the other thing about it is, I tell this to my sort of guy friends who are struggling dating, and I'm just like, dude, be interesting. Like, that is one of the better things that you can do in your life is like, just, you know, find the thing that's that you like to do that's a little bit different. Yeah. And embrace it. And you're gonna have a more enjoyable life than just sitting and watching sports and.
But even like, if I could just like, I actually wrote a book called Leg Closers, which I don't know because I'm doing lots of victim rights stuff. So that's why my like fart joke documentary is on hold. Cause I'm like, people are not going to take me seriously if I'm doing the fart joke thing. And then it's like, people aren't. So Leg Closer is women's stories about dating where like they wanted to get with the guy, but he did something so stupid that they're like, it's done. The legs are closed. I'm out. Right. So these stories were like, it was going to happen for you, but you just did this stupid thing that you're not supposed to do.
What was an example of one of those?
How dirty can we get?
I think it's okay.
Okay, so like I'll tell mine because the way that the book is done is that there's each chapter, right? So chapter 1 is called Condom. It's about misadventures of condoms, right? Sure. So the way it's set up is each chapter starts with my story.
Forthcoming?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if I want to put it out because it's so outrageous and funny and dirty and cool. And like, I mean, I think it actually would be great, but I'm like trying to do all this victims' rights stuff. And I'm like, people already don't know what to do with me in life. And it's like, if I'm like promoting, it's like, I'm the fart joke lady and this and that. I'm speaking before Congress now. Like, it's a lot. Like, I got put in the Harvard Journal of Legislation this year, my ideas. Like, I'm doing this stuff. So I'm like, I'm kind of being taken seriously for the first time in my life, even though like, this is right. So I'm like, God, but I'm so goofy.
It's such a fun idea, though.
Oh, it is. But just trying to tell real quick is in Condom, my story was I was dating this guy. He was really cool. It was we were gonna get together for the first time.
Right.
We're making out. Took his pants off, and he had a condom already on.
Shut up.
Right. And so I said, ta-da, nice magic trick. And like I'm like, and he's like just staring there, and I go, "Is it a family heirloom you don't part with? Like I don't understand. Like what's happening?"
When did he put it on?
I don't know. Right. So he just was really awkward, and he's like, I think I should go." And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like, "What was that?" I've never seen anything like that. So I called all my girlfriends, and I'm like, "Have you had this happen?" No. And then finally, one friend who paid her way through college as a stripper said that sometimes men with premature ejaculation issues would wear them under their pants. So she's like, maybe that was his problem. Maybe he took his pants off too soon. I'm like, I don't know. But that's a story. Just don't do that.
Sure.
Don't do that.
Unfortunately, yeah, the guys I talk to, they're already far ahead, but that's amazing. Lenora, I think we should end on that story. That's incredible.
Sure.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
It's really fun, and I wish you the best with your...
Thank you. And yeah, if anybody has any issues with stalking or wants advice or is curious about my weird projects, they can just find my website.
Yes. Yeah. And I will, I'll post in the exhibits.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw next week for another fun, fascinating conversation on I'm Not Joking.
Yo.